called ethical dairy farming,
Okay,
where the moms stay with their calves much longer and they're not milked quite as much. How do you know?
well, there's a guy in Colorado that's actually doing some work with what they call ethical dairy farming, where you keep the cows with the calves.
Yes.
And what they do, now the new high-tech milking equipment, this will actually make it easier. Let's say you have a robotic milker or just a real high-tech milking parlor. You can program the milking parlor to not milk her completely out and leave enough for the calf. You can do that with this high-tech precision milking equipment. And then the calf just waits outside, because I don't want the calf in the milking parlor. But that can be made to work. You see, back with the old milking equipment, you had to just leave 1/4 for the calf. You'd milk out 3/4 and leave 1/4. And there's a guy doing this. And I'd love to get rid of the calf hutches, because there's a lot of labor. I have people calling me up all the time and sending me emails about taking a baby calf away from the mama. And they've always been doing it. It's not a new factory farm thing. They were doing it in a dairy we had in my boarding school in the early 60s. They were doing that. But this is something that actually, where electronic technology would actually make that easier. Because you could program it to leave a certain amount of milk in the calf, for the calf. And maybe you milk them twice a day, not 3 times a day. See, one of the things that people have a real hard time working with, and with trains mammals, I want to get into some of the genetic stuff here. Good stockmanship does matter. I want to get into some genetic stuff, because you're going to partly answer your question. Make sure that first experience is good. And if you have the horse is with a familiar person, he may be a lot less stressed. Animals make categories. When I'm on the leash, I protect. Off the leash, I can go play. With service dogs, if any of you work with them, vest on is work, vest off is play. Let's maintain those categories. Now, sensory-based thinkers and animals and people with autism sort things into categories. You can sometimes have a problem with a horse where if he was abused with a jointed bit, he may be just fine with a one-piece solid bit, because it's like opening a new file folder, and he may be just fine. Artificial intelligence, people with autism, animals are bottom-up thinkers. These kids that are different, too many of them are getting overprotected. We got to get them out doing things. You got to get them out learning, experiencing lots and lots of different things. Okay, you had a question.
I was basically going to ask, like, what career path do you recommend? Is that like veterinary or something?
Well, let me talk about career paths. Okay, a lot of students want to become veterinarians because that's the only animal career they get exposed to. And in most of the animal science departments around the different universities, you start out with maybe 75 wannabe veterinarians. Then when they get to the junior year, they learn that there's all these other careers they can do with a 4-year degree, like nutrition, or genetics, and you need science. Careers they didn't even know about. So then it drops to 20%. And then a lot of students go into other things. The other thing you want to make sure you do if you're thinking about becoming a veterinarian is try the job on when you're still in high school. You know, go volunteer at a vet clinic. You know, if you like the large animals, go out and ride with a veterinarian. Find out exactly what it's all about. Because too many students get forced by their parents to become a lawyer or a doctor and find out they hate it. You don't want to do that. And then once you get into college, do summer internships. Try on careers. Find out what you like, but maybe also find out what you hate. You don't want to go into something you hate. We do a lot of work with big meat packing plants. You know what I find out? 2 students love it, and 1 student hates it. Bottom-up thinking. Animals, people with autism, and computer artificial intelligence. And then, of course, all of you have seen my work on the flight, so I think we'll skip over this. I want to get into, all right, I want to get up. How did I get my business started? When I was ad absolutely, totally weird. I did it by showing off my work. And here's the brochure that I had. And I originally was living in a student apartment. And so I renamed the Oasis Apartments the Oasis Building. And it was Suite 218. And I never let any clients get near the Oasis building. I'd meet them at the airport and we met in the airline club. That's what I did when I first started. So I'd have a nice venue where I could meet clients. But put your portfolio on your phone. You're good at graphic design, computer programming, put your portfolio on your phone. Because you never know where you're going to run into the person that can open up the door. And there's the drawing right there that I used to sell Cargill back in the late 80s. I sent that to Mr. Fielding, along with a bunch of pictures of jobs. Showing pictures like this, steel cattle handling facilities I had designed. That is showing off your work. You sell your work rather than yourself. The other thing is, too many students make autism or dyslexia or some other thing their primary identity. For me, autism is an important part of who I am, but the cattle industry comes first. Career comes first. And then I think about all the geeks and nerds I worked with on these big projects. The stutterers, Tourette's, autistic, all oppositional defiant, all kinds of other labels that got put on them. Good non-slip flooring, just essential. All right, let's do a little test. I want you to raise your hand if you saw that that animal was looking at the sunbeam. Oh, we're doing much better than the accountants are. Now, I get asked all the time, and I've done a lot of things. I'll be 72 this summer, so I've been in a long, long career. What is the things that I'm most proud of that I did? Yes, I've got pieces of equipment like the center track restrainer system, but the thing that I did that probably made the biggest difference was a measurement system to evaluate the slaughterhouse, which forced people to manage it. What I have found is people want the magical new thing more than they want the management. There's the measurement. So here's the measurement system right here. And those are some really good scores of big feed yards. The prod score used to be 500%. The trick is figuring out what are the really important things to measure. That is the trick. What's really important to measure? That's what you gotta do. Well, that got totally corrupted and they pulled out the stick. Because in the beginning, only 30% of the plants could stun 95% on the first shot. Because the gun was broken. The stunner was broken. Now, that went way up to like 90%, and that graph completely ruined. Okay, before I get into genetics, let's just do a few more questions. Okay, back there.
What's your next big project or thing that excites you?
Well, my next big project, well, right now I figure at this point in my career, I want to work on getting the students that are different, helping them to be successful. And I'm seeing too many students that get a label or whatnot, getting too babied and they aren't learning basic skills such as shopping. Basic stuff. I'm seeing too many parents where you got a 16-year-old who's a straight A student, but he doesn't shop, doesn't have a bank account, doesn't know how to order food in a restaurant, doesn't know how to do basic life skills. Another problem is they get really upset if they can't do perfect work. Another big problem is having students who are totally removed from the world of the practical. Really big problem. Great big problem. They're removed from the world of the practical. Well, in this study right here, 20 years ago, I came up with this crazy idea that we're going to look at how much cattle jump around in a squeeze chute when you handle them and see if the crazy cattle have lower weight gains. And we found out they did. That was considered radical stuff 20 years ago. It's been replicated probably 100 times now. You know, animals that went berserk had lower weight gains. But on the other hand, don't over-select animals for traits. If you over-select for traits, you might have some problem. I'm going to show you some stuff. I'm going to show you some stuff where there's problems. Well, there's a nice purebred, gentle Brahma. Really likes to be stroked. Now, what are some of the things I want to measure to maintain basic animal welfare for production animals? You've got to do handling scoring. I've got to make sure I don't have swollen knee joints. I don't have hoof problems, lameness, dirty, too skinny. These are things I can measure. Just basic things to prevent suffering. Now, lameness is a super important thing to measure because look at all the different things here that can make them lame. That makes lameness a really good critical control point. It's up to the veterinarians and the managers to fix it. But I can do a screening thing and say, yeah, you've got a lot of problems with lameness. Now, in the late 80s, 30 years ago, the pig industry made a really bad mistake. They started just selecting for rapid gain, thin back fat, and gigantic loins. And they ended up with a pig that had horrible feet and leg conformation. Now, cattle started walking down that same path. But fortunately, the Angus Association started putting in feet and leg EPDs. The thing is, you overselect for any trait, whether it's an appearance trait, it's a production trait, or behavior trait, you will wreck your animal. Let's look at it like this. If an animal is a country, I got a national budget. Now, if I take the whole national budget and I put it into the economy, that's meat or milk, I got nothing left for feet and legs, so I start getting leg problems, bone fragility. I start having problems with high altitude sickness in cattle coming down to lower elevations because I don't have enough heart. I'm running a Mack truck off a motorcycle engine, and I got nothing left for repro, and I can't feed the dairy cow because he's too skinny and putting it all in the milk, and I got nothing left for military. That's immune function. Now, I had a chance to go out to Iowa, to Utah State University, and talk to a guy named Lyle McNeil. Lyle's an expert on Navajo churro sheep, a real old sheep breed. Not very much meat, but the parasites can't live in them. They're super, super hardy. And we're going to have to breed some hardiness back into some of these animals. You just select for production traits. You lose your military, and you lose infrastructure. That's bone, repro, and heart. You can't have it all. So let's say with genomic engineering, we do it so we can have it all. You won't have enough feed to feed it. You say because you can't, it's not a nuclear reactor. Well, there's an ugly post-legged steer, show steer. There's a pig with a horrible foot, that's an old slide. Horrid old collapsed ankle. There's our crooked claw, that's a genetic defect in cattle. As they get older, they get worse. All right, I just want to show you how traits are linked. And this is something that's still not understood today. Even with all the genomics, it's not understood. Years ago, this was probably 60 years ago or more, the scientist Belyaev wanted to breed a fur fox that wouldn't bite your hand off. Now you see how lean and snarly he is? Lean, pointy nose. 20 years of selecting for gentleness, you end up with a border collie fox dog. Look at the shape of the body. Look at how that's changed. You changed the body, you changed his temperament and his color. Traits are linked. It has something to do with genomic folding. It's not understood. It's all mathematical. I was fascinated about the black hole being photographed. Einstein's theory was right. He was probably on the autism spectrum. No speech delay's free. Stephen Hawking's theory was right. And you know what's interesting? Neither Einstein or Hawking wanted to believe their mathematics. Their emotions told them it was wrong. Their mathematics was right. It all was correct. Those deer, tame deer, 30 years ago you couldn't have gotten in a pen with a deer like this because we've started the process of domestication. All right, now I gotta bash the bulldog because I think it's a monstrosity. That's what it used to look like. It can't breathe, can't walk, and it can't have its babies naturally. How did you get into a mess like that? Where back in 1938, that's what it used to look like. That's what it used to look like. How'd you get to that? Because the verbal standard just says massive head, broad shoulders. That's what it used to look like. Maybe they should have used a picture as a breed standard. Now I've just got to finish up with a picture that really makes me puke. And that's the extreme Arab horse. I can't believe people are breeding this. You can go onto Google Images and type in extreme Arabian horse, get ready to throw up. I don't think that's pretty. That's over-selecting for an appearance trait. See, the problem you have, like with the lameness issue, and there's a big genetic component, it happens slowly. So you get what I call bad becoming normal. Happens slowly. Now when it comes to animal welfare at slaughter plants now, plants easy to fix. You just got to repair equipment, non-slip flooring, lighting, have the right stuff. But when I see a problem now, it's something I have to fix at the farm. Swollen knee joints, lame, dairy cows in bad condition. And a lot of this is caused by pushing the biology too hard. You don't know where to stop. Just, you push it too hard. Cattle today, beef cattle today, heavier at a younger age. Leg conformation issues, that's genetics. Too much hot feed, too much concentrate in the feed, and growth hormones gone overboard with it. We have to start looking at what is optimal, not maximum. We've bred animals right now, we got no disease resistance. I have just read in horror this new candida. It's a fungal infection, it gets into hospitals, and they have to destroy the curtains and the ceiling tiles to get rid of it. Well, they found out that nasty candida has been in the environment forever. Maybe you kill it off with the good candida. Competitive exclusion, then we wash the room and some other kind of candida. Because the fungals ain't gonna work. I don't know, that's scary. It's making you want to go to the hospital. Real scary. Now, if I get a broken leg or I get a heart attack, yes, I am going to go to the hospital. Okay. Let's get some questions going. Okay?
What's your most favorite project that you've worked on?
Well, the biggest piece of equipment I ever worked on was the center track restrainer system. And you can see that in Beef Plant video tour. And working on developing a piece of equipment like that, it's very stressful, but it's also very rewarding. You also have a whole team of people working on that equipment. And people say to me all the time, well, how is it being autistic? And let me tell you, being a woman in a man's world in the 70s, that was way worse than the autism ever was. Way, way, way worse. And then look at all these heads of Silicon Valley companies. Read about them in the business magazines, like Business Week, Fortune, all those business magazines. Yeah, we got to get your library in that have a good selection of business magazines. And things like Science and Nature. So you can read about cool stuff you can go out and do. Because we got to start making education the path to a goal 10 years in the future. That's the way we need to start looking at education. Okay?
How do you fight your own perfectionism?
Well, the question was, how do I fight my own perfectionism? Fortunately, I didn't have that. And I think part of the thing is I grew up with so many practical things. I had little bird kites that I'd experiment with, and I had to experiment, they didn't work. And I had to keep experimenting with them. And this is stuff that I did when I was 7 years old. That in the practical world, stuff's never perfect. Look at all the people they got to hire to debug computer programs. Now you don't want to be sloppy. But I think a better way of looking at it is getting the work up to a standard. And then there's certain things you got to be absolute on. Stop signs do mean stop. Yeah. So you have a problem with being perfectionism?
Paralysis by analysis, on the spectrum.
Okay, when you say paralysis by analysis, what kind of a task are you trying to do?
Well, for any task, I need a big setup before I do the execution.
All right, what are you doing? Is it programming?
Bottom up.
What are you, a programmer, a designer? What are you doing?
I fell into real estate.
So you're into real estate? Okay,
But
so
the
that's
task-
something you're doing right now?
Yeah, and that I get seized up with that, or anything, even construction or doing something. I have to have all the tools ready and I have to have.
One thing I can't understand is how they're building all, I can't believe all the warehouses they're building in spec right now.
Right.
It's just crazy. They, all around, the Denver airport and all around the O'Hara airport.
They're expecting growth.
Yep.
That's what they're waiting for.
Well, when they built the Empire State Building, you know what its name was when they first built it? It was the Empty State. That was, so, you know, then some of the amounts of hotels they've built, it's just been crazy.
I just do houses. now.
You just do houses?
Yeah.
So you just sell houses? Okay, well then you must be getting enough done where you don't have paralysis by analysis selling houses.
Right, well, yeah.
So you're doing that.
Yeah, the answer, I think, the answer I gleaned from what you said was, just do it, and then once you get it started, you know, it feels better.
Well,
once
there's
you
a
get
point where
started.
you've got to just start a
Right.
project. You know, I had a professor, that would just, well, the word processor was the worst thing that ever happened with him, because he could keep changing the grammar, and he revised the grammar in paper like 20 times, never get a paper out the door.
Right, right.
And that's why some of my thesis stuff didn't get published right, and half the students didn't get the stuff published, because couldn't get it out the door. And yes, you want to put good quality work out the door, but when it gets to the point you're doing 10 revisions of the grammar and you change it back to where it was before, after the 5th revision, that gets kind of dumb. There's a point where it's got to get out the door. You see, you gotta start a project.
Right, that's where my difficulty is getting it started. Some
Oh,
other
well, then
people
how are you doing the real
have
estate?
difficulty
The
getting
real
it
estate
finished.
is that someone's house lands in your lap and you gotta sell it.
It's everybody